Welcome to Unbreakable Latina.
Hi guys, welcome back to Unbreakable Latina. This is your host Melina. I hope you're having an amazing Monday. If you're listening to this on Monday or whatever day you're listening to, I hope it's going great. And let me fill you in on my weekend. I did absolutely nothing except stay home, do my laundry, clean my closet. I also was working on my merch, and by working, I mean just like sketching ideas and trying to design it myself. It didn't go very well. I got frustrated because my vision wasn't transcribing to my art, but I think I'm gonna have to hire someone to design it. But who knows? I think I was just in a funk, so I'll try again next weekend or sometime. But it's coming. It's coming soon. I just want it to be a certain look, and when it comes to clothing, I'm very picky, and if it's going to be a shirt that's going to represent Unbreakable Latina, then it has to be something that I love, not something that I like, if that makes any sense. But it's coming. On this week's episode, I have Sophia, also known as Corporate Pero Latina, on Instagram and on TikTok. She is bringing sazon to the tables that matter. She's a Latina content creator, podcast host, hilarious, and also my New York bestie. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Here is Sophia. So, Sophia and I connected on, I don't even remember. Was it TikTok or Instagram? I don't know, but I found you on TikTok.
I think we followed each other on TikTok, and then one of us probably went to follow the other one on Instagram, and that's when we started talking.
Yeah, and Sophia, I just saw your TikToks. I thought they were hilarious, and I was like, this is so cool. No one has ever done this. I thought it was so unique and just relatable, because I felt a lot of the things you felt during working in the corporate world, even though I don't work in the corporate world, but I used to.
I know, but I think it's honestly relatable to so many people. I don't even work in corporate anymore, and I still make videos that are technically for the corporate niche, working in an office environment or that sort of hierarchy, where there's systems and all this shit.
What made you start posting on TikTok?
So I actually started my TikTok because a friend was like, you should start a stock talk. And I was like, what the fuck is a stock talk? And so she knew that I was really into the stock market and the basics, right? But I liked talking about it and teaching people about it and whatever. And she was like, oh, it's filled with all these men mansplaining shit, right? And not or not even explaining anything, just talking about trends in the market and everything. And she had found this girl on TikTok that had a big following, and she made it easy to understand. And she was like, you should do this, there's so much potential, right, for growth, all this shit. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. But I joined, and she just knew that I had the potential to go viral, I guess.
She knew there was a star in front of her.
Yeah. So I posted a video, but it was more about it was one of those green screen ones where the heading was oh, less and less Latinos are investing because they don't have money mentors or something like that. My first video that ever went viral, and I was like, oh shit, this is cool.
You're like, I'm famous now.
I was like, oh shit. Put in my resignation shit. I got a couple thousand followers from that when I started posting, but then I didn't enjoy it as much. It wasn't content that I genuinely liked to do. I was like, all right, how do I make this educational and entertaining and whatever? And I'm all for trying to teach and make things simple, but on TikTok, I feel I just wanted to post funny shit. I kind of slowed down, and because I wasn't growing anymore, and I was like, all right, this is bullshit. I'm never gonna get to the 20, 30K where you're actually an influencer and whatnot. I just like never saw it happening. So I was like, okay, whatever. And I just started using it more as like so many people do, where you're just like scrolling through the For You page, like started following some accounts. And for months, I would like post here and there, but it wasn't really anything serious. And I think last fall, I was following like a bunch of corporate creators, right? Like the corporate Natalie, Jenna Hushka, I think is her name. So she had, she like did this video where it was like, oh, when your coworkers ask you what you did on the weekend. And it was like nothing, like low key. And then it like flips to a scene of you like partying it up. And it was back and
Taking
forth, right?
shots.
Yeah, yeah, like perreando. And it was like that video went very viral and got me a bunch of followers. And then like a week later, I did a video with my brother, which was like, oh, the diversity hires or whatever. And it was like this whole skit where we're like having a conversation with like broken English. And that got me like a huge wave of like Latino followers, which is what I wanted, right? So the first one got me a bunch of like um I guess corporate followers, but I think throughout the last few months I've been losing followers actually, because sometimes when you have,
Really?
yeah, sometimes when you have a video that goes viral, but it's like, for example, with me, when like a dating one or a just strictly corporate goes viral, sometimes I get a lot of new followers, but they might not be Latino. So I do a lot of content where I incorporate like Latin songs or like I speak Spanish or whatever. So then when they start realizing that, I think they start unfollowing me. It actually kind of sucks when you go viral because it gives you that like dopamine or whatever, right? Where you're like, oh shit, I got it. You're like, yeah, I've cracked the TikTok code. And then you start posting more and none of them go viral and you're like barely getting any views. So you kind of lose motivation, I think. So it's hard to like keep that up.
Yeah, I was telling my brother that the videos that I actually think about and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna do this, and I plan it and I, like the lighting, everything, nothing happens. The videos that I do, like, oh, I should do this, and it's like lighting's terrible, like it's not the greatest work, it's not my greatest acting, but they go viral and I'm like, what the heck? Hey guys, I just want to take a quick little break to let you guys know that I have partnered up with Amazon Music. Amazon Music is giving my listeners a 30-day free trial. You can get yours today by going to getamazonmusic.com/unbreakablelatina. Once again, that's getamazonmusic.com/unbreakablelatina. I will link it in the show notes. Okay, so I just jumped into your content creation journey, but can we back up a little and tell us where you grew up? What did you major in?
So I grew up in Laredo, Texas, which is a border town in Texas. I started college at Texas State, which is like in the outskirts of Austin. But during my sophomore year of college, I was actually just like very unmotivated and I felt like I needed like something exciting. I have that like 5-year itch, and I guess like high school was very exciting and whatnot, right? And when I was in college, like it just wasn't happening. I didn't like it as much. And I was like, I need something exciting, like a big change. Like this isn't enough. So I did this national student exchange program. And I was supposed to be in New York City for a semester. And this program was like, you can go anywhere in the States for a semester and you get to pay in-state tuition. So I was debating between New York City and Hawaii. So I always wonder like what my life would be like now if I had gone to Hawaii. Like, I wonder if I would have gone and like stayed there too. That's how I came. And then after, well, the first day I like cried myself to sleep. I was so homesick. And I think that whole first month was so hard with the adjustment. And it was like a culture shock and everything. So I really didn't think that I could last like the whole semester. I was freaking out, like, oh my God, I don't think I like it, blah, blah, blah. But then, I started like making some friends. My brother was living here. in like a different neighborhood and stuff. And I just like fell in love with the city. I think, when you don't grow up in New York City, you come here and there's just like so much opportunity, so much more that you're exposed to coming from a small town in Texas. So I just like loved that. And I felt like I needed more time to explore everything that the city had to offer. So I just shocked my friends and family in Texas and I was like, hey, by the way, I'm staying for good.
I'm not coming back.
Yeah. And I've been here for almost 7 years now.
So did you graduated from New York?
The school that I came to in New York City was Queens College. So I just finished school there. Yeah.
And then you graduated. Did you have a job lined up?
Yeah, it's funny, like, when I was in high school, I always wanted to be a dance, like, I used to say that I wanted to be a dance choreographer and, like, have my own dance studio, like, just be, like, in the performing arts world. But then I, like, had this epiphany, I guess. That's what it's called, right? Like
Yeah.
the realization.
Like a movie moment.
I had an epiphany. Yeah, like I had an epiphany my senior year where I was like, all right, like I do not want to be a struggling dancer because I knew that if I really tried, like I could pursue that. But I didn't want to be a struggling dancer. I didn't want to go back to like that lifestyle that I lived when I was very little and like seeing my parents struggle and everything. And I was like, no, no, no. Like, I'm trying to like make the big bucks and shit, right? Of course, I picked accounting. So
Were you good at math or it was just random?
that's literally why I picked accounting. I was always like really good at math. And it's funny because accounting is like not really math at all. Graduated with an accounting degree. Fun fact, I have a minor in sociology. Love people. So during college, I joined this business organization called Alpha. And I feel like if I hadn't joined that, it would have been way harder to actually get any internships or like full time jobs. So I went to a business convention when I was, I think, about to be a junior or something. And I got an internship at a CPA firm at one of the big four accounting firms. That was like my big main goal in college, like to start my career at a big four accounting firm. Because once you have that on your resume, it's like the stamp of approval, where you go anywhere else and they're like, oh, okay, she's like willing to put in the work. And they're like recognized globally, all this shit, right? So yeah, I did 2 internships with them and then I started full time with them in their advisory practice. But then after, I think during the pandemic, that's when I kind of like, not that I fell out of love because I was never in love with it, but I just started thinking more about what I really wanted to do in the future and stuff. And I would look at all the managers and directors, the one female partner we had, and their lives looked nothing like what I want my life to look like in the future. So that was like very eye opening for me. So I'm like, if I want to get to that point, then I'm going to have to sacrifice like other things. So I was like, all right, I'm going to look for something else. And I wanted to get more into like the finance industry rather than accounting. And then I left KPMG and I got a job as a financial analyst. And I was there for 5.5 months. And I think that's when,
Is that the one that you quit?
yes. So that's when I started posting a lot on TikTok. Because when I started working that financial analyst role, I was also going through like sort of a breakup from a situationship.
Those hurt the most.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, wait, what? So I had just started that job. I was going through this like sort of breakup and I was just using it as a distraction. But then that's when like those videos started going viral. And then I was just like after like shortly after that, I started hitting my job and I started posting a lot about it on TikTok. And I feel like everyone that was following me like knew how badly like I needed to quit. So everyone was like very invested on like what I was gonna do. So I think TikTok kind of gave me that like push, because I also wanted to be that person that could maybe inspire someone else to actually be like, no, you know what? Like, I don't want this kind of lifestyle. Like, I'm going to look for what I want and I'm going to get it, or, So, yeah, I only lasted 5.5 months there. My manager was so surprised when I quit. She couldn't believe it. I was like, what? You're shocked?
So you quit your job and you also have a group called Corporate Pero Latinos. When did you start it? At what point in your journey did you start that group?
So, yeah, I started the group in November last year. So this was like all happening at the yeah. So let's say like those big videos happens like early October. I think I have it all at like the timeline. I've gone back to check. I've gone back to check. So like those videos blew up in like early October, but I was feeling very, very disconnected from like what I wanted to do. I was very disconnected in terms of like, oh, what I was doing with my life, and also from like my Latinidad, right? Like I was losing it. And I have like friends from, before I created the Corporate Latinos group, but not many that are Latinos. Like it's a different kind of bond, right? That you create with people who know your culture, who can relate to like how you grew up, all these things. So I created that group in like late November. But it was crazy because I posted a video and I just was looking to get like a few friends out of that, right? Like, let's go for happy hour, like 10 of us, and I might end up being close to like three of you, and that's cool, but I'll have people that I can relate to and that I can go like dancing reggaeton with on a weekend night or something like that. So yeah, it happened. But then now it's like over 1,000 people in the group. Now there's a guys group too. So it's huge. And now at this point it's kind of hard to manage all on my own, which like I'm still posting events and stuff like that, but there's no way that I can like personally get close to every single person. And it's kind of hard because sometimes people like will DM you, right? And I mean, I'm sure you get it. You've gotten like huge waves of new followers, right? Especially on Instagram. Yeah, because I feel like on Instagram, that's where people will like slide in your DMs more. And a lot of people like will message you, and it's hard because you want to reply to everyone, but it's also hard to like have a full on conversation with everyone because it's just, there's only so much of you that can go around.
So you quit your job. Did you have a job lined up?
No.
How did it feel to like not like coming from all this structure to just not having a job? I think how long did you last without a job? It was not that long, right?
I know this girl actually made fun of me when I was like, "Oh my god, like how am I supposed to go back to like a 9 to 5 when I've been unemployed?" She was like, "Girl, you were unemployed for like 5 seconds." Chill.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say because I remember like your video and you were like, "Oh, I'm unemployed. I have no plan." And
So I gave my 2 weeks notice. That's when I posted the video where I was like, I just quit without a backup plan, right? And I was about to like travel to Mexico, so that was also stressful because I was like, oh shit, I'm trying to like spend quality time with my family, but I also need to like get interviews and stuff because I can only be unemployed for so long. I had like enough in my savings to be unemployed for like a month and a half, if I'm being honest, without having to take out like anything from like whatever I have invested. So I was like stressing, and but also like it was such a big relief when I quit. So I didn't regret it. But it took me I was unemployed for exactly 4 weeks. I will say though that I didn't since I didn't have the money to be unemployed for longer without stressing about like needing a job, I didn't think it through as much. And it's like weird to talk about it because like it's not something I regret, and the job that I have right now is very chill and it allows me to have a lot more mental freedom and like a lot more free time to do other things. But it's just like I don't see myself being there for too long either. So when people ask me like, "Oh my god, do you like love your new job now?" I'm like, "Not really, but it's better than the life that I was living at my other job." Yeah. But now I like joke around saying I'm like the HR lady, but I like gave myself that name.
So you quit your job, you started your podcast.
So, yeah, I quit my job that same day. I'm like so impulsive because I used to be I used to be that person that like planned everything to the T and like very risk averse, and I'm always thinking about the future, right? And like what consequences I might have for doing this or whatever. Nowadays I'm like, you know what? I'm just living my life. Whatever happens, happens. I can't control everything. So I think that's when it started because I was like, hell no, like I'm not about to remember my 20s like this. And it would be like working at a job that was like soul sucking just to be able to say that, oh, I'm a girl in finance, you know? And then, you know, having friends but not those friends that you can really relate to as much, and where I was like sort of losing my culture and who I really was. So all these things, and I was like, okay, yeah, no, that's not it. So that's when I started wilding out and I quit. I started my podcast that same day because I had been like flirting with the idea, but I was like, no, I don't know if anyone would listen to it, and like, what would I even talk about? Like all this shit, and I didn't even know how to. But this one guy had told me like a week before. He was like, "Oh, you should check out this app. You don't even need the mic and the headphones and whatever." He's like, "You can just start on the phone, and then if it starts growing or something, then you can invest on like equipment or whatever you want." So I was like, hmm. And I just knew that if I started it that same day when I quit, it would get some momentum. So I was like, gotta be strategic here.
You're
But
like
I didn't,
always planning. You want to relax, but then you're like planning two steps
yeah, but I'm
ahead.
still like, but I didn't think about all the future episodes, right? I was just like, oh, this is it, like whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then I was like, oh shit, now I have to keep pushing out episodes every week. Like what? And like the editing and stuff, I had no idea how time consuming like podcasting was, especially when you have guests, right? Like I've told you, the editing sucks.
When you do it on your own, it's so easy. Like the episodes I record on my own, yeah, I'm like deleting, editing as I go, and I'm like, oh, that sounded dumb. Like,
Like as you're recording, right? It's like, all right, let
yeah,
me cut that or whatever. Or I'll repeat something like 3 times until it sounds right. But
I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that.
yeah, I know. And sometimes, like, I have a friend who was like, "Oh, it kind of sounds like you're just like reading sometimes because it sounds so like clear." I'm like, "Well, sometimes I kind of am."
Girl, I'm a natural. That's why.
I was born for podcasting. No, yeah, but I I think I took on too much at once. So I did get kind of overwhelmed a couple of months ago because I was starting a new job. I started the podcast. I was still, I've been pushing out like TikTok and Reels and whatever content since forever, like 2 to 3 videos a day, and like being super active on like my Instagram stories, trying to like still make time for like my friends and family, all this shit. And
For
I
yourself.
was like, yeah, I was like, oh shit, like I was like totally neglecting like exercise. I'm like, ain't nobody got time for that. Like there was a week where I got sick, and I literally thought it was because I had so much coming from everywhere, and like I also had like the corporate Latinas group that I was like planning events for and like meeting others like on the side, and so it was just a lot, and I've always had trouble saying no. So if someone is like, hey, like I'd love to connect with you if you want to have drinks, whatever, I'm like, yeah, for sure. But then sometimes I'm like, oh shit, I'm doing something every single day.
I know, I see you, and I'm like, how does she have energy? But then I remember you're also younger than me.
I know, yeah, like, I'm like, I know, right?
I know, you're old. Gee, thanks.
No, yeah. It's funny, people sometimes think that I'm, like, 30 or in my 30s because I guess I just give that impression,
It's because you're
but,
just
yeah,
living life.
I guess it's just the fact that I'm, like, still in my 20s that gives me that much more energy to be able to, like, always be out and about. But I also, like, I love being social.
Yeah.
So that's why it's not that I don't wanna say yes to people, like, I usually want to say yes, but sometimes I have to just be like, "Alright, no, like, I can't go to that because I need to sleep." Yeah.
So with your content creation, do you plan your content or is it like spur of the moment type of thing?
I think I definitely cannot, like, batch create. I know a lot of people do that. I had a conversation with another creator, Jorge Alvarez, I don't know if you follow him,
Yeah, I think I do.
where we were talking about this, and he actually told me, like, the term, right, that I'm an intuitive creator. So with me, it's like in the moment, I'll think of something and I'm like, all right, like, gotta set up my phone and like, I have to record it like right there. So unless I'm like with people who I would be comfortable telling, like, hey, do you mind if I record something real quick? I don't do it because that's one thing that I keep telling myself, like, I don't want to become that person that's just like all about, influencing or like content creation, whatever. So yeah, I won't do it. But it was a lot easier when I was working from home because you can quickly like record something in a few minutes and then you edit it later or you post it right there and then. But now I go into the office every single day. So it's so hard. Like sometimes I'll be working and I think of something or like for a new trend or something, whatever, and I can't record it. I have to wait until I get home. And so now I've had to get into the habit of like recording at least like 3 to 4 videos over the weekend so that I at least have something for like early on the week, right? And then maybe Monday after work I record one for like Wednesday or but yeah, it's like harder now in terms of that. And I also just like do so much on the weekends that sometimes I have no time to like record videos. So that's when like I mean, I don't know if like anyone would notice, but sometimes like I post random things like on TikTok and
You're like, I
stuff.
want to stay
And it's like,
relatable.
yeah, I'm like, so for example, like those videos where I'm just like walking, like I'll be like walking to the train and I just record myself like ranting something. But I'm like, all right, but this is like things that people can
But
relate
it's
to. But it's
funny.
just not really like my typical content, I guess.
I mean, I like it because I feel like it's so organic and you're not like trying, you're just being yourself. And like for me, those are the ones that people like engage with more for some reason. Like my stories, if I post something on Instagram, people are like messaging me and I'm like, I can't keep up. Like the other day,
Yeah, right?
some girl messaged me. She's like, you haven't answered my DM. I'm like, not to say that I'm famous, but it's hard.
But
It's
you
hard to keep
are.
up, but I am. No, so when you started creating, did people that didn't know that you were creating like start like messaging you like, hey, like I saw your TikTok, or were you ever afraid that your boss was gonna see it?
To this day, I go to work thinking that like that's gonna be the day that I get fired. There are so many like big creators who they're like, oh no, like my boss knows about it or my team or whatever, but it's obviously like fictional. Like these accounts are very much like fictional or they'll put like not affiliated to my employer, all that shit, right? But my content is like half and half. Like there are a lot of videos that I create where it's like not really relatable to my work life anymore, but I know that it's relatable to other people, so I make it because it just like I get the idea. But sometimes it's funny because people take it too seriously, right? And I'll post something and they're like, "Oh no, like why are you doing that to yourself or something?" And I'm like, But do you think I'm working till 10 p.m.? I don't think so.
This is not my life.
Yeah, I'm like, I've been out of work.
Were you ever afraid that your bosses were gonna see it?
Yeah, because a lot of my content is like me talking about my like struggles with work or with my boss, or not so much anymore, but I used to like talk shit about my manager's managing style right at my other job. And so I was always scared that she would find my content because I was constantly like talking about it and just like venting. In terms of my coworkers, so a few of my coworkers from KPMG, like their friends like sent my video to them or something as like, oh, this is relatable. But once I was out of KPMG, so they would just text me and be like, oh my god, like I just found your TikTok, whatever, and I'm like, okay, cool. I just realized you're not following me. Yeah, but I think when I first started posting, when you don't have like a big platform yet, you feel cringy. And I don't know if you felt that too, but like before I reached 10K on TikTok and before I reached like 1,000 followers on Instagram, everything that I was posting, I was like, oh my god, is this cringy? Like, and I'm like, if my friends or my coworkers or anyone finds it, they're gonna be like, okay. I don't know. I just like used to care more about what other people would think. But I think I'm sure you've experienced this too as you like start posting more and like just putting yourself out there, you just like don't give a shit. Like now I could be surrounded by people. Yeah, I could be surrounded by people and I'm like, "Hi guys." Like and I just like whatever. Yeah. Hi, this is my Monday morning outfit. No, but um I think my only concern is that like my current coworkers or boss will find my content and think that it's like um about them, but just like me negatively talking about them, but a lot of it is fictional, like. And then at my current workplace, they care a lot about you like being the face of whatever organization, right? Or like you're always representing us and whatever. So I know that if they were to find my content, it would be a problem and they would probably ask me to like delete my platforms or make them private. And so I would quit. Like 100%. Yeah, I've told my siblings before. I'm like, "Oh yeah, like I would not give all this up just for this job. It's not like my dream job."
Now, so you had this plan, you were gonna have a secure job, and then you had the epiphany that this just wasn't for you. How does it feel to like own up to the fact that your plan just didn't go as you planned?
It took a lot for me to be able to like get over the fact that I was no longer that. So when I started my new job and people would ask me like, "What do you do for work?" I would say I'm in HR, but I used to be in finance. Like I would always mention the fact that like, "Oh, I used to be in finance, but now I do HR." Or I used to work here, but now whatever. It's just like I needed them to know.
That you're like, I have accomplished more than this.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a different reaction that you get when you say, "Oh, I'm a financial analyst at this like trendy company," than like, "Oh, I work at HR. I work in HR at like a business or whatever that like people might not even know." So that that was the hardest part because I just like I don't know, I guess it like gave me external validation. And so I had to get over that to be like, all right, I don't need that external validation because I'm living the life that I actually want now, like the lifestyle. Because before, I loved talking about what I did for a living, but I hated the day to day. So, how does that help me?
Was it hard to tell your parents that you were quitting the job that you'd been working so hard? You went to college, you interviewed, you interned, and were they shocked?
My dad like tried to be supportive. He just like had faith that I would figure it out and, find something. He was concerned, I think. Not mad, but I think he was worried that I was making a decision that I was going to regret and then be like, "Oh shit, how do I get back?" or. So my mom is still in Mexico. When I told her I wanted to quit, she was like, "Oh, but you have like all these great benefits. Like, are you going to lose them? All this stuff." Like, and then I was taking a pay cut, so she was like, "Oh my god, like." But since she doesn't really understand like the work life over here, she was just like, "All right, like." I think both of them were kind of like, as long as you're happy, like, fine. But neither one of them was like, "I'm here for you if you need money." So I was like, "All right, shit." Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, they were both like, "All right, well, I guess you'll figure it out." But yeah, I don't have those type of parents that were like giving me the lending hand.
They're like, you're gonna have to figure it out. So, becoming a content creator, I know that you've booked a couple of paid partnerships.
Yeah.
Get it, girl. Get that money, honey.
Get the money.
What has your journey of content creating been like money wise?
I think the first ever brand that reached out to me was a double dating app in New York City that they had just launched like recently, right, in New York City. So they were trying to get that like TikTok momentum going. And this is when I had like less than 2,000 followers. And they were like, "Oh yeah, if you just post a video, we'll give you like $50." And like, it was so quick. Like, I just post it, like, I did a video that was like a trending sound or something, but it was like with the green screen of the app, and they sent me the $50 right away, and it was like very easy, right? So I'm like, "Oh, this is great. Like, working with brands is so easy." But after that one, like, I didn't get another brand deal for like a long time. I thought that was just like a one off and whatever, like. So once I started, I think once I hit like that 10K on TikTok, that's when, like, that's kind of like your social proof or whatever, right? With
I made
brands.
it.
Yeah, where you're like, "Hey, look, now I can actually call myself a micro influencer." Like, in that world. But so that's when other brands started reaching out, and it's very complicated because no one brand uh, does their business the same. So, like, I've had some where they ask you for a video, they pay you upfront, and then you create the video and you post it. With others, it's the same thing. Like, they'll pay you upfront, but you have to submit the video for approval. And they might come back with edits, they might not, but you have to like wait on them. A lot of the brands do a lot of back and forth when they reach out. I think with a lot of them, the bigger the brand, the more back and forth. So, I recently got like the Cliff Bar deal, but with them they wanted like a whole
Congrats.
thank you. Like, they wanted like a whole introduction like through Zoom and stuff, which is fine, right? But it's just like more work because you have to like schedule a call, and then you're like having the introduction talking about your content. You're kind of like selling yourself, even though they're already pitching to you themselves to see if like you can work together. And then after that, it's like more like email back and forth, and then you get the contract, and then maybe you want revisions on the contract. But I think the monetary aspect of it is like confusing, right? Because you never know how much to charge. And now we have that app, Clara, for creators,
Yeah.
where there is some good information out there, but they don't, like, not enough people have submitted reviews to go and find any brand and see like, okay, how much they've paid. Or like, I've seen somewhere, it's a brand, but there's only reviews from people who have like 500K followers, and I'm like, okay, well, that does not apply. But yeah, but it's like fairly new, so I'm sure eventually it's going to get to that point. But I still have trouble with um like knowing how much to charge. Like there's been brands that reach out and I'm like, okay, well, this is a smaller brand, so their budget is much smaller, than like a bigger one. And so sometimes they'll offer me a certain amount and I'm like, all right, yeah. And like, it's like easy to fit into my content. So I'm like, fine, sometimes $200 is $200. But there are other times where I'm like, no way. There was a brand that they were like protein shakes that were like, to help, they would help suppress your appetite and stuff like that, and that's like not at all me. I know like people might put content out like that, but I'm very like um against diet culture and all that stuff, so I was like, no, 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 like they would have to pay me like $5,000 for me to even mention them, and it's also like it would be so hard to fit that into my content. I never like record stuff like that.
It's funny because some brand reached out to me, but in my gut, I mean, everybody wants money, right? But in my gut, it just didn't feel right. And it was funny because I kept asking everybody, like, what would you do? Like, I'm a Latina trying to break barriers in the content creation world. And all these people that are non-Latino are getting this brand deal, but because it's a big name. But then at the same time, I'm like, my content is so authentic and I've been so true to like my listeners and stuff that it just didn't feel right. I just said no. I was like, no, thank you. It's just not the right fit for me. 2 weeks later, I saw all these bad reviews on this company. And I was like, I
Oh,
am so glad that I didn't say yes. Because then it's a reflection of me?
so if you were to get enough money out of content creation, would you do this full time?
Yes. What do you? No question asked.
Like, with your face is like, how dare you?
How dare you
even
ask me
ask
this?
that?
We always talk about this.
Okay, but not everybody knew. I had to get it out of you.
What
No,
about
I
you?
know, but I ask because I think having our 9 to 5s and doing content creation allows us to be picky with what brands we work with. And who was I talking to? I was talking to someone who works like on that other end, right? Like they're hiring content creators and giving them briefs and whatever. And she was like, you can always tell who are the creators that are making the content for fun or because they like to do it or they're passionate about it, and who are the ones that are just chasing a paycheck. And it's so true because like I wouldn't like I would 100% do this full time. Like I'm waiting for the day that I can quit my 9 to 5
Yeah.
to be an influencer, to be a lifestyle influencer. No, but just to like do content creation or influencing or whatever. But I would want to like be at a point where like I'm making enough from brands that I believe in, not just like any
Yeah.
brand that comes at me. And I do think that there are a lot of full-time influencers that might promote a product or something just because, well, they need the
For
paycheck.
money, yes. Like I feel like for me,
Hmm.
if it became like you're right, I wouldn't do like a full-time content creation. I'd have like a side hustle. Like I'm always like I majored in business. I don't work
Yeah.
anything near business, but I'm always thinking of like how can I make money? I need to have something else rather than just content creating because you're right. I feel like if I was to do just content creation, I'd be like any brand, like give me the paycheck because I need to pay my bills. Have you gotten any hate like on your videos? Does it affect you? Do you read it? Do you block them?
My God. So I don't get much hate. If anything, like I'll get a few annoying comments here and there where I'm like, all right, like you did not pass a vibe check. But I have
Delete.
gotten, yeah, but I have gotten a few comments here and there that like have stuck because I'm like, whoa, that was not at all like the point that I was trying to make. And now you're like putting this stamp on me. Um there was this one video that I posted once I created the corporate Latinos group, like the guys group. It was like, okay, like the corporate Latinos group now want to like have some co-ed events, blah blah blah. So if you're a Latino in corporate, living in New York City, like you should join this group and whatever. And like some guys started joining and commenting like, oh yes, this is awesome, or like, oh, I wish this was like in LA or in like Texas or whatever. But then I got a comment saying like, all right, let me know when you stop segregating. And I was like, what? And then someone put, oh, it's giving classist or something like that. Because so I got several comments like that where it was like, why are you trying to separate yourselves as like corporate? Because kind of like, oh, you think you're better than like the rest of the Latinos, right? And like it hit me, but of course, like I go to my close friends and my siblings and I talk about it. And I just have to like think through it and be like, all right, like I'm sorry that I'm not Latina Jesus. Like I can't be doing all this for like everyone. I had to pick a specific group and it was the group that I would relate to the most. So of course I was gonna have this like certain affinity group. But those comments kind of hurt me because the last thing that I want is to make someone feel excluded. But you can never get it all right.
No, there's people for everything, and I feel like I got hate on one of my videos that I was talking about something that happened to me that was like microaggressions, and they're like, "Oh, why are all these first gen Latinos so sensitive?" And it's your own people. Honestly, I was
Yes.
like, "Oh my god!" But then I remember the moment that I started putting a podcast out, that I put myself out there on TikTok. I knew that was going to happen. I read this quote, and it said, "Don't let someone that's not building anything give you constructive criticism." And I thought it was so true because usually the trolls or anybody that comments negatively are people that aren't doing shit. They don't even have a picture or anything.
I know, it's always the ones without the freaking picture, and I'm like, first of all, like, leave me alone. User 12345. Like, I would imagine, like, because you have over like 50,000 plays on your podcast or something, right?
I'm about to reach 100K.
Oh shit. Okay. But I'm the famous one.
It's low-key flex.
So, but have you gotten like any negative reviews on the podcast that have affected you or like have made you question this whole podcasting thing?
I honestly, I'm really shocked because the stars, yeah, I've gotten like 1 stars, 2 stars, and nobody has commented badly, but I feel like there's been so much good that it outweighs the bad. My podcast has gotten a lot of reviews, and I think it's thanks to TikTok, because if I didn't post on TikTok, I don't think anyone would have discovered it. It's crazy. Like once you put yourself out there, like I think I posted this video, and that's the video that made like people listen to my podcast. It was just like when someone says you're going to start a podcast and they're like, oh, like everybody has a podcast or something like that, and you started but it does really well. And because it's true, a lot of people when I started were like, oh, you're a podcaster too. And now, not to brag, but people are like, oh, you inspired me to start a podcast. And like I get messages like that, and a lot of girls have started podcasts, and I love that this community of Latina content creators is just united. Look at me and you, like I would have never met you if I wouldn't have gotten on TikTok. Now you're drug
No.
texting me.
I know. My long distance bestie. Yeah, the way that TikTok can really just help any brand grow is crazy. I have like a separate TikTok for the podcast that like most people have no idea of, but I posted a video last week right about that episode, and that video blew up. I was like, I was expecting to like get a couple thousand views maybe if I was lucky, and it blew up. I got like tons of new followers, and my podcast got like tons of new listeners and like plays and whatever. So I was like, oh shit. And yeah, it's crazy because I think I was getting a little unmotivated with the podcast just because I was like, I don't know if it has enough pull, to be worth all the work that I'm putting into it. So I was kind of starting to think twice about it. But yeah, after like last week, I was like, wait. And people were like messaging me like, oh, I love to come on and talk about this, and or I love how accessible it is. Like, I wish there were more like Latina podcasters, and I was like, you should listen to Unbreakable Latina. And
Thank you. No, honestly, like someone asked me about quitting their job, and I mean, you heard
yeah,
me
I know.
reassure
That's
them.
why, yeah, I think, and because we also, it's like we talk about similar things, but also like with different perspectives and stuff, or different stories, they're all interesting at the end of the day. So yeah, I think that kind of like re-motivated me to like, okay, make it even better now or whatever.
So, what advice would you give someone that's unhappy in their job and had this plan of, like working the secure job and then suddenly feels like it's just not for them anymore?
To get out. Literally, like, I yeah, right. Like, I can give a long ass answer, but the short version is get the fuck out. Like, I would say do not waste any more time somewhere where you know that you're unhappy at, or that like somewhere where you don't see a future at. Because at the end of the day, like, whatever, like a job is a job, right? But I think everyone should do a lot of like um deep digging into the kind of life that you want to live, and not really like the kind of life that would impress your parents or your friends or strangers. So, yeah, I would probably suggest that as soon as you start feeling that way, you start looking for other options and stuff, rather than just like waiting until you're miserable. And you get to that point where I was like, I need to quit right now without anything lined up, because I literally cannot imagine going through another month in close. Like every month, it was that week that I was like, I would wake up like already panicking. And once it starts affecting your like mental health and stuff, it's horrible. I would like go to sleep and have dreams about work, like spreadsheets and stuff, and it just like takes over, and then you take that out on like the people that you have like close in your life and stuff. So yeah, get out.
So, pimp yourself out. Where can people listen to your podcast, follow you on TikTok, on Instagram?
TikTok and Instagram for the brand. It's corporate pero Latina. If you want to follow like the podcast updates or the actual podcast, it's corporate pero Latinos on TikTok and Instagram. And then the podcast itself is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I enjoyed recording with Sophia. We talked so much. We didn't run out of things to talk about. And it's so nice to share everyone's journey on their content creation. And just remember that if you had this idea or whatever it is that you've been wanting to do, and you're like, oh, there's so many other people that did it already or they're doing it, everyone's different. Everyone has different personalities. If you want to start a podcast, start it. Us Latinas need to keep on taking space and creating, because there's space for everybody. And it's such an honor to be part of this movement that's happening. And I hope you found this inspiring, because I found it inspiring as well. Everything happens the moment that you start being intentional about the things you're doing. And if you have a shitty job, or if you're not happy with your life, make those changes, because life is short and you only live once. Don't forget to purchase your Unbreakable Latina stickers on my website at www.unbreakablelatina.com. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Unbreakable Latina, and on Twitter at Latina Podcasts. I hope you have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.